I never imagined that something like this could happen to me. You think you know your family, what they value, what they stand for, what they'd do if they had the chance to make their dreams come true. And then out of nowhere, you find out that everything you believed about them was a lie. That's how it happened. Just a simple, innocent discovery that turned into one of the biggest shocks of my life. I'll never forget the day I found out. It started like any other. My Aunt Karen had always been part of our family, though in a way that always felt a little off. She was the cool aunt, the one who seemed to have it all together. She lived a bit of a glamorous life, always going to parties, traveling, and making her life look effortless. It was the kind of life I always dreamed of having. And to be honest, I admired her. She was the kind of woman who could walk into any room and command attention. She was well-spoken, always had the best clothes, and never seemed to have any problems. In my eyes, she was everything I wanted to be. For as long as I can remember, she'd talked about finding her perfect house. I knew she'd been house hunting for years, always putting off the decision. But when she found the house, she'd promised it would be amazing just like her. It was supposed to be her dream house, a place where she could relax and show off her success. I guess I always believed she would eventually find the perfect place for herself, and that she would have her own little slice of heaven. But I didn't expect it to happen this way. I first noticed something was off when I saw the listing for my dream house. It wasn't just any house, it was the house. Ever since I was a kid, I had imagined what it would be like to live in a place like this. Grand but not ostentatious, tucked away in a beautiful neighborhood, surrounded by nature, and with enough space for everything I'd ever wanted in a home. I'd spent hours looking at pictures of it, watching videos of it, and fantasizing about one day making it my own. It was the perfect house for me. Modern, yet classic. Comfortable, yet elegant. I never expected to see it listed for sale. But one afternoon, while scrolling through my phone during lunch, I saw it. The familiar photos, the distinct architecture, the bright, airy rooms. It was unmistakable. The house I had always dreamed of was now on the market. I felt a tight knot form in my stomach as I clicked on the listing, reading through the details. But what really caught my attention was the name on the listing. It wasn't the name of a real estate agent I recognized, nor was it the name of a company I had seen before. The name belonged to someone I knew intimately. It was Karen, my aunt. My heart skipped a beat as I reread the listing. This wasn't just any listing. This was my house, the one I had dreamed about for years. And somehow Karen, my aunt, the one I admired, was the one living in it. It didn't make sense. How could she have this house? She'd never mentioned buying anything like it, let alone a house this big. She wasn't even married at the time, at least not that I knew of. My mind raced as I wondered how she could have pulled it off. I knew she'd been successful in her own way, but this was something else. I had to see it for myself. I texted her that evening, casually asking if she had bought the house. I didn't want to seem too suspicious, so I kept the message light. Hey, just saw a listing for a house that looks just like the one you were talking about last year. Is that it? Her reply came quickly. Yep, that's it. Just moved in a couple of months ago. It's been a crazy few months, but it's all coming together now. I smiled at her enthusiasm, but something in her tone made me pause. She was being vague, evasive, like she didn't want to talk too much about it. But the more I thought about it, the more it didn't add up. If she had moved in a couple of months ago, why hadn't I been invited to see it? Why hadn't she told me about her new home, especially after all the times she'd bragged about how she'd finally found the perfect place? The next day, I decided to stop by. I wasn't going to confront her. I wasn't sure if I was even ready for that, but I wanted to see the house for myself. I had to know. It was Saturday, and I knew she wasn't working. I'd make the trip under the pretense of just stopping by to say hi, but deep down, I already knew what I was walking into. I pulled into the driveway, my pulse quickening as I looked at the house. I had seen it in pictures, but seeing it in person was a whole different experience. It was everything I had imagined, everything I had hoped for. The sleek modern design was complemented by lush landscaping, and the massive windows glinted in the sun. But as I stood there staring at the house, something didn't sit right. I walked up the path to the front door and rang the bell. My heart was pounding in my chest. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but the door opened quickly. There she was, Karen, smiling like everything was normal. Hey, look who decided to stop by, she said. Her voice cheerful, but there was something behind her eyes, something guarded. Come on in, I'll show you around. I walked into the house, and it looked exactly as I had imagined. Everything was pristine, just as I had pictured it in my daydreams. The high ceilings, the open floor plan, the stunning kitchen with marble countertops, it was all there. But it wasn't just a house anymore. It was hers, or so I thought. She led me around, chatting excitedly about the renovations she'd made and the plans she had for the place. I nodded along, but my mind was elsewhere, focused on the little details that didn't make sense. Every time I asked a question about the place, her answers were vague, like she was hiding something. It wasn't that she was being intentionally deceptive, but I could tell she wasn't telling me everything. Is this your new husband's place? I asked. trying to keep the conversation casual, but my curiosity was bubbling up. Oh no, she replied quickly, almost too quickly. I bought it on my own. It's a lot, but it's a dream come true, you know? I nodded, but something in her tone didn't sit right with me. Why had she been so quick to mention that? I'd known her for years, and I had never heard her talk about buying a house without a partner. It just didn't add up. But it wasn't until I made my way upstairs that I finally saw something that really made my stomach turn. The master bedroom was beautiful, of course. King-size bed, floor-to-ceiling windows, a sitting area by the window. But there, hanging on the wall, was a picture I immediately recognized. It was of Karen. But she wasn't alone. She was standing next to a man, someone I didn't recognize, but the intimacy between them was undeniable. Who's that? I asked, pointing to the photo. My heart was beating fast now. Oh, that's just a friend, she said, brushing it off with a casual wave. He's someone I met recently. Just a guy I'm seeing. My mind was spinning now. Something about the way she said that didn't feel right. The way she had acted so casual about it. The way she avoided giving any concrete details. It didn't take long for me to connect the dots. The man in the photo, the house that seemed a little too good to be true, the pieces started to fall into place. But it wasn't until I stepped into the garage that everything finally clicked. I wandered out the back door and into the garage, hoping to find some sign of this mysterious husband or friend. What I found instead was a sports car. His sports car. It was parked there, and it wasn't just any car. It was a model that I knew very well, one that I had been looking at myself for months. It was a luxury sports car, the kind of car that screamed wealth and success. I'd seen it in my dreams on the streets, and here it was, parked in Karen's garage. I turned to Karen, who had followed me outside. "Whose car is that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She hesitated for a moment, looking at the car, then back at me. "It's mine," she said, a little too quickly. "Just a new purchase. I've been doing well for myself lately. You know, with all the work I've been doing. But I didn't buy it. The pieces were too big to ignore now. I was standing in my dream house, surrounded by clues that painted a picture I wasn't ready to see. Karen, my aunt, had been pretending all along. She was living in the house of my dreams, pretending it was her husband's, all the while using it as a way to manipulate the situation and keep up a story she had fabricated. I felt a surge of anger rising within me. This wasn't just about a house, it was about betrayal. She had taken something that was mine, that I had dreamed of for years, and turned it into a lie. But why? Why had she done this? I was standing there, staring at her, waiting for an explanation. And in that moment, I knew I was no longer just a bystander in her life. She had crossed a line that could never be undone. But instead of confronting her directly, I made a decision that shocked even me. I turned around and walked out of the house. "Emma?" she called after me, but I didn't look back. I didn't need to hear any more of her lies. What I needed was to reclaim my own dreams and my own sense of self-worth. The moment I stepped out of the house, the cool air hit me like a breath of fresh oxygen. My chest, which had felt so tight and suffocating just minutes earlier, now felt open, even if only for a moment. I was standing in front of Karen's house, the house I had once dreamed of, my hands shaking as I held onto the steering wheel. I didn't know where to go, but I knew I couldn't stay there. Not with her, not with the lie she had been living. I drove aimlessly for a while, trying to clear my head, but the anger still churned inside me. I couldn't stop thinking about everything that had just happened. The way Karen had lied, the way she had stolen my dream house without any sense of shame, the way she had presented it all as normal, as if it was just another day in the life. How could she do this to me? The fact that she had even convinced herself that I wouldn't notice, that I wouldn't see through the cracks in her story, made it all the more infuriating. But as much as I hated her for it, there was a deeper, more unsettling feeling creeping in. This wasn't just about a house. This wasn't even about the betrayal I felt from Karen. This was about my family, how they'd let it all happen, how they'd allowed her to get away with it. I thought back to all the times I had looked to them for support. To my parents, to my siblings, to the people I had loved and trusted. Why hadn't anyone said anything? Why hadn't anyone stopped her when they saw her pushing me aside, living my dream life for herself? Did they even care about me the way I thought they did? The answers felt like they were slipping through my fingers like sand. I was angry, but it wasn't just at Karen. I was angry at my whole family for standing by and watching her take everything from me. I was angry that no one had bothered to check in, to see if I was okay, to ask how I was doing. My entire life, I had been invisible. Now, Karen had made it clear that no matter how hard I tried, I was never going to be enough. She had everything, and I had nothing. The hours passed, and I found myself driving to the one place I could always count on, my best friend Rachel's house. I needed to be somewhere I could vent, somewhere I could scream if I needed to. Rachel had always been the one to help me sort through my feelings, the one who could talk sense into me when I was too emotional. I pulled into her driveway and sat there for a moment, trying to gather myself before going inside. I couldn't face her looking like a wreck, but I knew I couldn't hide what I was feeling either. Rachel opened the door before I even had a chance to knock. Her eyes widened when she saw the look on my face. She didn't say anything at first, just pulled me into a hug. "Tell me everything," she said quietly. So I did. I told her everything. How I found out Karen was living in my dream house, how she had lied to me about it, how she had stolen it from me in a way I never expected. I told her how the lie had been so seamless, how Karen had pretended it was normal like it was all part of the plan, how for years I had been fighting for my place in this family, only to find out that I had always been nothing more than a shadow. Rachel listened quietly, her arms wrapped around me as I let the words tumble out in a rush. When I finally stopped talking, she gave me a long, hard look, as though she were trying to process everything I had said. "Emma, I can't even imagine how you must feel right now," she said after a long silence. "But what I do know is this. Karen took your dream, but that doesn't mean she has the right to own it. She can't just take something that's yours and pretend it was always meant to be hers." I nodded, wiping the tears that had started to fall. "I don't know what to do, Rachel. She's ruined everything for me. I can't just go back to my family like nothing happened. I feel like I've lost so much more than just the house. I've lost trust. I've lost my sense of belonging. I've lost my place in the family, and I don't know how to get it back." Rachel took a deep breath. "You don't have to fix this right now, Emma. You don't have to figure everything out in one go, but you can start by standing up for yourself. This isn't your fault. Karen made a choice to hurt you. You didn't do anything to deserve this, and you don't have to let her get away with it." I shook my head. "But how do I do that, Rachel? How do I confront her? How do I confront my family? I feel like everything I thought I knew is just gone. I don't know how to fix this." "You start by speaking your truth. Don't let her walk all over you. And don't let your family ignore what's happening. This is your life, and you deserve better than to be treated like a backup plan." I took a deep breath and let her words sink in. Rachel was right. I had spent my whole life letting others dictate who I was. I had spent my whole life trying to fit into a mold that wasn't meant for me, trying to live up to standards that didn't reflect who I truly was. But this was different. This wasn't just about fitting in or getting approval anymore. This was about me taking control of my own life, about standing up for myself and saying enough is enough. I sat down on the couch, trying to process everything Rachel had said. She was right. Karen had taken something from me, but she couldn't take my voice. She couldn't take my ability to speak my truth, to stand up for myself and demand respect. I didn't need to make anyone love me or approve of me. I needed to reclaim my life, my dreams, and my future. Rachel handed me a cup of tea and sat beside me. "You're going to get through this, Emma, and I'm going to be here for you every step of the way. But you have to make the choice to stand up for yourself. You have to be the one to take control of this situation. No one else can do it for you." I nodded, feeling a sense of clarity beginning to form inside me. I couldn't keep running from this. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine when it wasn't. It was time to face my family and confront Karen. It was time to reclaim the pieces of my life that I had allowed others to take from me. I knew it wouldn't be easy. Confronting Karen, confronting my family, would be the hardest thing I had ever done. But I also knew that I couldn't let this go. I couldn't let the anger, the betrayal, the shame fester inside me any longer. It was time to take control. The next few days were a blur. I spent hours working through what I was going to say to Karen, to my parents, to anyone who had played a role in letting this happen. I was nervous, terrified even, but I knew I had to do it. I couldn't keep living in this state of uncertainty. I had to face my family, and I had to make them understand that I wasn't going to stand idly by while they trampled all over me. Finally, the day came. I didn't know if I was ready, but I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I picked up the phone and called my parents. They answered on the second ring, and I could hear the surprise in my mom's voice. "Emma, how are you? What's going on?" "Mom, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to both of you," I said, my voice steady but filled with determination. "This isn't going to be easy, but it's time for you to hear the truth." And so I began. I told them everything: the house, the lies, Karen's betrayal. I didn't hold back. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I told them how much it had hurt me, how I felt like I had been ignored, abandoned, and made to feel less than my sister. I told them how much I had sacrificed to fit into their world, only to find out that none of it had mattered. It wasn't easy. There were moments of silence, moments where I didn't know if they were going to understand or if they would side with Karen, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. This wasn't just about the house anymore. This was about standing up for myself. This was about reclaiming the respect I had always deserved but had never received. After I finished, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. My mom was the first to speak. "I'm so sorry, Emma. I had no idea any of this was happening. I had no idea Karen had taken things this far. I didn't know how much this was hurting you. I don't know what to say," my dad added quietly. "I can't believe I didn't see it. I'm so sorry." I didn't know what to say either. It wasn't enough for them to just apologize. The damage had been done. But hearing their acknowledgement was the first step. I don't expect things to go back to normal, Mom. I said softly, but I need you to understand something. I need you to respect me. I need you to see me, not as the one who has to fight for your attention, but as your daughter, your equal. I don't want to be treated like I'm invisible anymore. I understand, Emma, my mom said, her voice thick with emotion. And I'm sorry. I promise you, we will work on this. I'll do better. We'll make it right. It wasn't a perfect resolution. I knew that. But it was a start. A start towards healing. A start towards rebuilding the broken trust. As I hung up the phone, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It wasn't over, but I had taken the first step. I had spoken my truth, and I had reclaimed my voice. And that in itself was more powerful than anything else.